Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from IrishSportsDaily.com. I'm your host, Greg Flammang, and with me, as always, is Jamie Uyeyama, Mr. Jamie University. It is Notre Dame 49, Army 14. Notre Dame gives Army their first loss of the season. They move to 9-1, and Notre Dame moves to 10-1 with a win and in matchup coming up next weekend in LA against the USC Trojans. It's going to be a nervy one that night. I can see it now, Jamie. But we are going to talk about Notre Dame's victory tonight. I think the story was Notre Dame's offensive efficiency and Army's inability to really do anything against Notre Dame's starting defense. So we are going to talk about all those things. I think a lot of people are excited for the ESQ Black Friday sale. Ge Wang, he came through for the people. He said, I'm going to pay the percentage off of whatever Notre Dame scores. Notre Dame scores 49 points. So that means for ESQ clothing, starting right now, the special is live. Use code ISD, 49% off all online items. It starts tonight, and it moves until the 30th. You have a week to take advantage of this. Some of the best clothes you're ever going to see. Notre Dame, you've seen them on Notre Dame's players and coaches. Right. So Ge Wang, of course, the founder of ESQ Clothing, Notre Dame alum. So head over to esqclothing.com. 49% off all online items, not valid for gift cards. You've got a week to take advantage of this. Get your gifting done right now, and you can take care of it. It's one of the best deals. Notre Dame fans hit a home run with how Notre Dame was able to play against Army tonight. Code ISD. Ge Wang is in the chat. That's what it is. Code ISD. We got some super chats here. CFB Hurts, $49.14. This team is fun to watch. Thank you for the super chat, CFB Hurts. Steve Miller, thank you for the super chat. Thanks to Ge and the boys. Yes. So one more time, 49% off on esqclothing.com. Use code ISD. Jamie, but perhaps Notre Dame's most complete performance of the season on offense. Would you say that's correct? I've got Notre Dame down for 462 yards of total offense on just 47 plays. Really, the last kneel down obviously hurts it a little bit, but Notre Dame's right at 10 yards of play. Army never had a chance. That Notre Dame was too efficient on offense. Leonard today, 10 of 13, 148 yards, 2 touchdowns, 77% completions, 223.3 passer rating. Notre Dame runs for 273 yards on just 29 carries. Would you say it was Notre Dame's most complete offensive performance, given the opponent, right? I think Army, it did have a good defense coming in. They were much better than Navy's defense coming into the game. Notre Dame just walked right through them. Would you say this was Notre Dame's best offensive performance of the year?
Yeah, I would say, because you look at Purdue, and Purdue's bad, right?
Yeah.
And that's like the other thing to kind of take into account. Like Army, had played pretty good. Like they had not given up a lot.
Yeah.
Army gave up one rush of 20 plus yards all year.
Mm-hmm.
I know they didn't play a good schedule. Like they played a bad schedule, obviously.
Yes.
But they just got destroyed. Like they got destroyed. I thought the reason why it was the most complete was because, the offensive line, we banged on them last week because they were not good. Like they weren't playing. They kind of took a step back from the level they were playing at. They were awesome in this game.
Yeah.
They absolutely dominated from the start. Like both sides of the line, like defensive line, offensive line, both just absolutely just whooped them up front. And that's the thing that you could say about Army each week is that they had been whooping teams. And I know that, yes, they aren't playing good teams, but still they had the mentality where they were out there just like out physicaling teams. Like Army was also a semifinalist for the Joe Moore Award.
Right.
And their line had a big thing to do with it. And we talked about, how much they got after it with their receivers and stuff in the run game. And Notre Dame was just blowing up blocks, getting off it, playing fast the whole game. And up front too, they were just, I thought Mike Denbrock did a great job of formationing them in terms of like getting stuff where they had light boxes to really take advantage too. And just everything that Notre Dame did, like Notre Dame just, you could just tell they were so well prepared for this game. And just past concept wise too, like it was like almost everything outside of, you'd say, like the Riley Leonard, like short yardage stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's about the only thing that didn't work in the game.
Yeah, and they brought out like kind of a new formation for that with the kind of had the two kind of end backs on the left side of line of scrimmage. That was interesting. They hadn't been doing that. They did it on the field, kind of goal line, goal line situation there. So maybe working on something new. That was interesting. But yeah, to your point, I mean, everything that they wanted, they got. I just thought, there's been so much. Kind of, made of the missed tackles forced by Jeremiah Love and Riley Leonard on the year. And there was some of that, but there wasn't a ton of that because there was so much room for them to run. I think they were opening up holes in a way that they haven't done so all season. And we kind of talked about this, how they were due, right? We thought we might get it last week. They weren't obviously they blew out Florida State, right? That's not a good opponent. They blew out Virginia, but those two games, there was inefficiencies in there that I think a lot of people, watching those games, they had a lot of empty possessions, seven 3-and-outs, 1 4-and-out in the first 13 possessions of the last two games. Notre Dame didn't have any of those problems today. They scored on 4 of their first 5 possessions, scored right after halftime. Was it the first play actually after halftime? They opened up the scoring. First play of the drive, they score. They were incredibly efficient today, and I think, fans can tell the difference, right? And sometimes you look at the score and you say, it's 52-3 or it's 35-14, but fans can tell when the offense isn't humming the way that they think they can, and that the way that they have in the past. And I think a night like tonight, you see Notre Dame got everything they wanted from what they were asking of their offense. I want to ask you kind of what you saw from Riley Leonard today. Was it just a simple case of, that he was on immediately from the start? He was crisp. He knew where he wanted to go with the ball. He was accurate. He was putting the ball on the money. The receivers, I don't think we saw any drops today from the receiving core. I thought that was their best performance. I thought Chris Mitchell, he hasn't done much. And today in this game, 1 catch for 28 yards. He had the block on the Jeremiah Love swing route, which is legal to do because he caught the ball behind the line of scrimmage, giving himself up. And then he has the nice catch and run on the I think it was 3rd down where they jumped off sides.
Yeah.
It's little things like that where you can tell he's fully buying into what the team is. None of these guys are putting up big numbers. Notre Dame's leading receiver, Bo Collins, 4 catches for 37 yards. But just that buy-in from him that you see from Chris Mitchell, which is he's a senior, it's great to see. Kind of what did you see from Riley Leonard today that why he was so effective?
I mean, I think there's a lot of it too where he probably could have done this last game, but I just think there was some of it that was like where he wasn't set up for success the same way. That's what I think was the main thing, was that, like, because there was a lot of stuff where you're looking at it where they were calling stuff. They were calling, like, they thought they were going to get man, and then they didn't, and then or they were calling like zone beaters again, and there's nothing there. And how many times did he drop back and there was nothing there? It was like once, maybe the whole time, right?
Yeah.
Like that was kind of the whole game. It was like guys were just running open, like, and I think it's just so easy to be like to have success. This was not a good pass rush. Right? It was not a good pass rush, right? Like they were like, one of the worst pass rushes in the country. So when they brought the house on that 2nd and 1, played the first phase on touchdown, like they're sending safeties. He didn't get sniffed. Like there wasn't anyone near him, right? Like, and that was pretty much the whole game. Like I'll be really interested to look at what the pressure numbers are and what it was for this game, because I don't think I mean, other than the one, screw up where with Wagner and Rocco, right? Where there was like a
Yeah. Yeah.
miscommunication and they let a guy loose, right? Like,
Mhm.
was that the only time he got hit in the pocket? I think it was. Like,
I
I don't
believe it
think
was.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think there was anything like it was just one of those things where he had so much time. They did such a great job there, and they ran the ball on him just like at will.
Hmm.
So they were just completely that defense was just completely off balance the whole game. It was like he was just basically playing 7-on-7 out there, like just doing whatever he didn't have to worry about it, right? So he was very good. I mean, I thought right away that the best sign early was the RPO where he had to change the arm angle and
Yeah.
made that
Yeah.
throw. That was a great throw. Like that was a great throw. And as soon as you saw him make that throw and understand that, and that was on the money, it was like, yeah, that's a good sign. That's a really good sign. And he was obviously like just pretty much, I would say probably the passing might have been his best game. But I just, like I said, he didn't have to worry about anything. So of course it's going to be his best game.
Yeah, and I think, I think we should highlight like it was his best game, but I think it was also with the receivers' best game, where they were getting open and they were all making the plays that were available to them. And I think
Yeah.
that's what we've needed to see. We've talked a ton about the drops that they've had. We talked a
Yeah.
lot about it last week. Bo Collins, there was a very important game for Bo Collins. Very important game. Thinking back on the week, Jamie, we banged on him pretty good. Yeah, I mean, in a way that I was thinking to myself, like, man, we kind of went in on him. But it is what it is. You got to call what you see. But I thought he had a very good performance in this game, and just Jordan Faison had a big game. Jaden Greathouse came back, so that there was a shoulder problem. We thought that he was going to be okay. Didn't get a ton of confirmation. He wasn't on the injury list, so you can't ask about him. He came out and played. So it was very good to see from him. And, I think Denbrock had a really good feel for this game. I think Riley Leonard had a really good feel for this game. And, when you're clicking, it feels like everything is going to work. And today, I felt like for one of the I don't want to say first times, one of the only times this year, I had that feeling every time they were dropping back, there was going to be somebody open and they were going to make a good throw. On one of his misfires in this game, he missed Jaden Greathouse open over the middle for a touchdown. And he had an open receiver there and he just missed him. He was too high. So it was all kind of clicking for Notre Dame. Jeremiah Love, 7 carries, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns, 18.6 a carry.
18.6. Like, yeah, it's ridiculous.
You don't have to worry about him getting a ton of touches when he's doing that with his output. Amazing football player. He had another receiving touchdown in this game, so 3 total touchdowns for Love. I mean, the height that he got jumping over that tackler.
Oh my God.
He's just incredible. Like we were talking this week about how talented he is and where he kind of ranks in Notre Dame's kind of recent history here. I've been thinking he's kind of like Julius Jones with Theo Riddick's feet, which is
That's a pretty good combo.
That'll work, right? Like that's going to work out. And the problem that Notre Dame is having is they're not running plays. They can't accumulate stats because they're not running enough plays. Only 46 plays for Notre Dame's offense. The starters got less than that.
Yeah.
So they could have been in for a big number game in this one. People in the chat are asking about Kingston Viliwamuasa, and I want to get in on this because I was kind of late catching up the game. I'm watching it on delay, and so I'm not getting a lot of the little details because I was coming from the women's basketball game. Huge victory for Neil Ivy's crew, by the way.
Oh yeah, awesome.
That was a great basketball game. But what was the story with KVA? Did he come in injured? Did he get injured during the game? Kind of what was the situation there that you saw?
I didn't see anything with it, so I don't think he played. Like I didn't see him in the game. So
Matt made mention of him that he was out there, but I never saw him.
I never saw him.
Here's the other part, right? And I think that I knew this was going to be the case. Loved the uniforms. I do. I thought they looked good.
Yeah.
You can't see the numbers.
Couldn't see the numbers.
You can't see the numbers. You got to people watch these games on television. I don't know if people know that, but they do when they put these things together. You got to put uniforms together. You can see the numbers. I don't know what's going on out there. But I think he was at one point dressed, and then he got he got changed out of his uniform. So if you didn't see him out there, then maybe he didn't. We'll check snap counts tomorrow.
I mean, he might have been in, but like you said, the numbering was just made it so hard to kind of tell. Like, after a while, you kind of like figured it out. But like there's a bunch of plays like that where I was just I just had no idea. Like I knew the one play that it was Snead who jumped off, but the broadcast got it wrong. And I mean, Noah Eagle's not someone who usually gets those kind of things wrong. Like he's very good. So I knew it was just like one of those things was just like messing up everybody. It just wasn't there. But I mean, obviously hopefully that he's fine and everything's okay, especially like, he probably wants to go back and have a nice game, going back to California,
right,
against SC. But, as good as he is and as good as like all these guys are, like Notre Dame is so deep at linebacker that they can have guys go out or some guy or some other guy can step up. Like obviously Osbury, he played like a pivotal role in this game and what he was doing in terms of his role, but like he was awesome in this game. He was fantastic. And really like there were so many guys who were fantastic. And I want to point out like Junior Tuihalamaka, was so good.
Yes.
Burnham was so good. Both those guys just setting the edges. Like you just saw them driving dudes back into the backfield, making that, making any of those outside, sweeps bubble. Like you saw them have success on that on the last drive where he's doing it. And it's like, it's backups in there. It's not not those guys. But when those guys were in the game, that's why he didn't have that success, like Bryson Daly. Also, I got to bring up like Bryson Daly, like, why are you giving this guy 39 carries?
It was stunning to me that they went with that they continued to just do the same. Like clearly they weren't going to win that way. I was, everyone was talking about Monken this week, and look, he's a good coach, right? He's been there for a long time, and they performed much better against caliber of opponents like Notre Dame was in the past. I didn't understand what they were trying to do. At no point did it seem like they were threatening Notre Dame. They got the one drive that was aided by the phantom face mask penalty. It just didn't seem like that was going to be sustainable, Jamie. And so to your point, I don't know what they were thinking there. Here's a super chat from John Amberg. Kind of builds on what you were just saying. Every supposed strength this Army team has was exploited by Notre Dame. Notre Dame ran the ball almost at will at their top two defense and shut down their top rated run offense, enjoying a nice glass of red blend. Cheers, Irish. What did you see out of it? So there was a situation there where it did seem like Jaden Osbury was in a corner position. And you had mentioned, I think it was Thursday in the preview show, that there's a good chance you just don't see Jordan Clark play in this game. And there's a good chance you don't see Leonard Moore. We didn't see Leonard Moore out there too much. We didn't see Jordan Clark hardly at all. He was credited with one tackle. But I didn't see him out there very much. Adon Schuler leads the team with 8 tackles. Jaden Osbury with 7. I think he was all over the place. So he had a big-time football game. And the thing that I was kind of tracking in this one, 5 tackles for loss, which is huge. But there were so many kind of 1 and 2 yard gains, which is like against Army. Those are havoc plays because that gets them behind schedule. Kind of what did you see formationally from Notre Dame and what they were kind of doing scheme wise to affect Army the way that they did with Army's running game?
Well, think of how much they stemmed in this game. Yeah. Like that was like, and I knew they were going to, but usually what you do is you stem once and you like let it go. And then that was the thing that just totally screwed up Army, because the reason why, they play at such a slow pace, it's very much the Ken Niumatalolo, like the old thing where it's like, hey, we're waiting to see what the read is. They're calling the play and adjusting the play and adjusting the blocking specifically to where the front is, and where, like, identifying all of that. And when you're just constantly doing that, and then they just didn't adjust, like, they don't know how to play fast, right? They can't. So that was really the thing that kind of just totally screwed it for them, was that they had no adjustment for that. So a lot of times they were just even stemming back to their original alignment and just
Yeah.
going there. So that was the thing where they just, like, they didn't have that. So it made them play like slower. Like they weren't just like sure of things. And the other thing was just like, they just got like beat at the point of attack again and again and again. And that just, it happened so frequently that it was just, oh my gosh, Alabama's just, it's over for Alabama here.
Oh boy. Alabama goes down 24-3. I mean,
Yeah.
they didn't just go down. I mean,
They're
it's
going
kind of
to,
like
yeah.
but no, I mean, they didn't just go down. They got beat bad. No
Yeah.
touchdowns in the game. Against that's not a good Oklahoma team. It just isn't.
No,
Like
their defense is good though, I will say.
yeah, their defense is good, but that's just unacceptable. Like,
Yeah.
well, look, I think this is, you go on the road in these games with teams that are talented but having poor seasons record wise. I'm going to just tell you right now, I don't know what's going to happen with USC tonight. I'm going to just tell you right now, that game is going to be close. People need to be mentally prepared for the fact that that's going to be a close game. It's going to be a stressful game, and USC has not been blown out this year by anyone. That's going to be tough. I'm just throw that out there. People need to be ready.
UCLA has played a lot better in the
They
last
have.
like 4 games too. They're like actually like a decent team now.
Yeah.
Like they looked horrible, obviously, to start the year, but
Yeah.
they're
And I don't know the situation. I'm just telling you. I don't know what the score is. I'm not really following that. But
it's 3-0 UCLA right now.
oh, okay. All right.
So, and they just broke off a huge run. So
Okay. All right. And it looks like, just since we're talking some stuff, A&M took the lead on Auburn. It's 31-28 A&M, just under 2 minutes. Auburn has the ball and they're driving a little bit. So we're monitoring that. But to be honest, though, like, it kind of doesn't matter anymore because teams are losing. And Notre Dame looks good. And I want to get some context from you, because we talked about Navy, we talked about Army. Now look, Notre Dame has struggled with these two programs before, military academies. Other teams have struggled, right? Like, it's one thing to say, like, they have played bad schedules or whatever, and they've played weak teams. That's true, right? But it isn't like teams of the past that Notre Dame has kind of struggled with have just been playing, these great programs. And it's like they're always, tested a lot more than this. Like, I want to get your kind of feeling on how much of Notre Dame beats Army 49-14, and they beat Navy 51-14. Like, how much of that is like, yeah, they weren't tested, but how much of that is Notre Dame is just playing really good football right now? Like, where do you kind of come out on that?
I mean, I definitely think like the fact that Navy didn't play like anybody really beforehand, and Army to get to your 10th game, like they didn't play a Power 4 conference team before this. So they didn't even play like a bad Power 4 conference team. They didn't even play a good team within their conference, like not even a half decent team. So yes, they did great against those teams, but it's just such a huge difference. Like I tweeted that thing about them having, they played 9 teams. They had 10 guys that were on the Senior Bowl watch list. So guys who were considered NFL pros before. Notre Dame had 16. That's one team compared to the whole team. It's like basically Notre Dame has more talent than the entirety of who they played in terms of top end guys.
Yes.
So I think like that to go from that is just such a huge jump. It's just you're just asking too much to go from that thing. Like I think if you play Notre Dame in the first game of the season or something like that, it's different, right? But even then, you can look at like what Notre Dame did last year with Navy, and I think part of it is, I think it's preparation. I think Al Golden, he's so good at obviously preparation, adjustments, and all that, and like getting all that. But I just think Notre Dame is like a extremely confident team right now, like extremely confident. And how can you blame the defense for being extremely confident? They've just
Of
been
course.
awesome. They've just been awesome. And like, it's just one of those things where I think like it can sound cliche to say like, oh, what Marcus Freeman was like, well, team glory over individual glory. But that is honestly, I don't know if all the guys feel that way because it's nice to like say that as a thing, but you don't know if everyone buys into it. But it sure seems like they buy into it because you don't see like people complain about carries. Everybody's kind of getting, what they want for, on offense. Guys are making plays, different people are scoring,
Yeah.
everyone's getting like a little bit, everyone's eating. And then on defense, it's just like it doesn't matter. Like it's going to be someone. And then I just think about like one of the big differences between playing Navy and Army and these things now when is just the overall team speed of the defense. It's drastically better. It's drastically better, just overall, right? Where I think about that one fourth down stop where Sneed and Osbury, right? Or Schuler, sorry, it was Schuler
Yeah.
who got there, right? But I mean, it could have been Osbury because he did it on these other ones too. But it's just like those guys just get there so fast. And obviously, you got to play fast, but they are so fast. So when they're decisive, they can get there and they can go and like make those plays where just like let's be honest, I don't want to name names and throw guys under the bus, but there's just a lot of guys who played for Notre Dame that played like big roles that just weren't the same level athletes
Yeah.
as those guys. Like, so
Yeah.
even if you look at like those really good like Clark Lee defenses,
Mm-hmm.
there was always like it wasn't there the depth of the talent there, right?
Right.
So this is like Matt always, not to throw Matt under the bus, but Matt always talks about, Notre Dame doesn't have the team speed of some of these other teams. So I'm like, man, on defense, they do. They just do. I mean, I watch everybody, at least we like Notre Dame athletically can play with any of these teams. And look at even you can see too, that's why some of these teams lose, right? Because it's like there is more parity within it. And that I think is one of the biggest things that's like been the difference too, is that Notre Dame just has better athletes all around. And that's why too that they can lose those guys. Like to not if you just said like, at the beginning of the year or on a different year, and you said, well, no Batel, no Bubakar, no Howard Cross, no Anye. That's like 4 of your top 8, whatever, defensive linemen. In another year, you just be say, man, Notre Dame is screwed. They're going to lose to Army, or they're going to do this. Like this,
Right.
something's going to happen. But you just have enough guys that that it doesn't matter because you have these other guys. And then the other thing is too is that like Riley Mills, he wasn't playing at this level before. He played good, but he wasn't playing at this level. The guy friggin' like he was getting double team, shed a double team, and one arm like beast
He
moded.
was like a
Damn.
bear. Like he like
Yeah.
a bear. Like he just stuck out and like just snatched him. I mean, Bryson Daly's a big guy. Like he's not small, right? Like it's not like he did that against some scat back. Like
Yeah.
it was so impressive. Like you said, he's playing at a level that he just hasn't. And Gordon Butler, thank you for the super chat. He says, I feel like I'm watching a rerun every week with the Notre Dame defense. Opponent gets one good drive near the start of the game and then lets lights out. I mean, we talk about these things with, what's the breaking point for the team? or what's the breaking point for the defense? You've lost Ben Morrison. You haven't had Howard Cross for 2 games. You lose Boubacar. You lose Jordan Botelho. And this keeps happening. It's the same level of performance every single time. And you just, like, to your point, they have so many guys that they can go to. You have a guy like Josh Burnham who's on the bench, and he's hurt, and he's playing the other end position, and he comes in at Viper, and then he starts playing well at Viper. Junior Tulihalamaka, to your point, is nowhere on the depth chart, not getting in games. Suddenly he's playing a big role, and now he's playing really well. They just have Leonard Moore comes in and he fills in for Ben Morrison. Like, Notre Dame has not. This is the sort of thing that they have not had in the past that they do have this year. And, Kurt Heinisch plays a thankless role today. Gabe Rubio plays a thankless role because they're just sitting inside. But like the blocks that they're taking up and allowing the linebackers to make plays, allowing the safeties to come up and make plays. And we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Christian Gray early in this game, just playing like an absolute madman.
Yeah.
Filling on the run, defeating blocks, playing with urgency. I mean, we have not seen it from him all year. And then he played this game with purpose, and just to have a performance like that from him, it just, like you said, the team is clicking kind of on all cylinders here. A couple comments. People are pointing out in the chat. Marcus Freeman said it's a sprained knee for KVA, so we'll see what the situation is going to be with him.
I mean, he's not going to play next week if it's a sprained knee. No chance.
No chance to play. All right.
Well, that's what would be. I mean, you don't see guys. Yeah. It would. I doubt. No way.
Okay. All right. We'll say no way. We'll monitor, but I mean, that's probably true. Also, the game next week, the game time has been announced. Jamie, you ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready.
12:30 Pacific time, 3:30 kick. That was what you wanted. That was what you wanted. We talked about that before. That's good. That's better for me, I think, personally, because it's better, right? So I'm going to be at the game. It's going to be a fun time. So that's the situation there. And if you're just tuning in now, thank you for tuning in. If you like what you hear, of course, please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell. So whenever it is going to go live, links to the podcast are in the description below. So please, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel. Vision Poet says Christian Gray heard folks talking trash after Navy. I mean, if he's been in our group chat, he's been hearing some comments from me about, like, man, you got to fill the hole. You got to fill on the run. But look, he played well. And go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, like, I think it was the shoulder.
It's definitely. I mean, there's definitely a through line there where he was playing a lot. He was
much more physical.
He was more physical. The shoulder came. I mean, maybe he's getting over that, and he's recovered and putting some more. He's putting good tape out there. And if you want someone to accentuate the tape that you have and then the highlights that you can make, then you need to go to VSR Media, founded by Notre Dame football pregame host and Emmy Award-winning anchor Vahid Sadrazadeh. VSR Media provides professional and cinematic video and photo. Whether you're looking for a collegiate or pro-level highlight reel, have a personal story to tell, or aiming to diversify and grow your business, VSR Media specializes in short and long-form video storytelling, social media management, and website design. VSR Media also captures professional headshots, senior and sports photos. Contact them at vsrmediacompany.com. Mention Irish Sports Daily to receive 20% off your first project. Visit them online or give them a call at 574-800-9106. Let's see. There's a couple. Luke Talich. Yeah, so wanted to mention Christian Gray. Just some other things on the docket here. Jalen Sneed, again, had another nice game. He had the unfortunate offsides situation. But another nice game from him, and he's really come into his own. I think since the Louisville game, he's really come into his own, Jamie, and he's played a big role. If there's going to be if KVA is going to be out against USC next week, Jalen Sneed's playing well. Drake Bowen Yeah. So what how do you kind of see? Where have you seen the improvement from Jalen Sneed? We've talked about it a little bit before, but where have you seen it? What did you see from him in this game?
I mean, I think it's that decisiveness and playing fast, like on that fourth down play.
Yeah.
The reason he beats the block is because he did not hesitate at all.
Hmm.
And he has that has been like the biggest change in his game where every single thing was always about him. Like every mistake he made was always like he didn't trigger
Mm.
or he tried to like sidestep a block instead of like fighting through it. And that's the biggest difference now, right? Is that on that play too, like the tight end was going down to block him and he just like shed it and went. Like, and the thing is that it wasn't even that he was just like overly like physical with it. He was just so sudden to that tight end. The tight end probably thought like, I'm gonna get,
Mhm.
I'm gonna be able to like get him at another point. If it's like if some guy's on you right away, that changes how you're gonna block somebody. And that's probably the biggest difference with him is like he's had that and really he's had that for, you know, obviously you have this do it against Navy and Army, that's great, but like he's looked like that really kind of since that Army game. That wasn't it
Mhm.
doesn't look like it was just like, oh, it was just against an option offense, or this is how it was, or scheme specific or whatever. I mean, it looks like that was like a turning point for him. So
Mhm.
that's awesome because obviously he is an incredibly talented athlete
Mhm.
and he's rushing the passer better too. And yeah, like you said, with KVA out specifically for like third down stuff, it's different. You don't run third down in this game how you're going to run it in other games, but like
Right.
KVA was playing on third downs, not all the time, but he's mixing in there. And now like Snead is going to have to play like a crucial role on third down, like he has been, but he's going to have to continue to do that. And
Mhm.
also it's a good time to kind of point out too, like Bryce Young on the punt block.
I was just about to bring that up. That's funny. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, but like that's another guy who is playing faster and just like it is clicking for him. And this is kind of what I expected from him
Mhm.
that like maybe he would, as he played more and more, this was the chance. This was, if it was going to happen for him, it was going to happen to him in this last like third of the season where he's kind of like taking off and he's really took off. I mean, the guy's got 3 block kicks this year too. And he's like running down on kickoff team and just blowing guys up too. Like, um, he has absolutely, if they didn't have him based on the kind of the injuries they've had, they'd be in so much trouble.
Mhm.
And he's
Yeah.
really like been better. And obviously, like he's gonna get so much better too. It's gonna be scary. He's going to be like a full-on dude. So I mean, if you're looking at guys that obviously there's so many great players on Notre Dame's defense right now, but if you're looking at like, oh my gosh, there's somebody who might do something that you didn't expect that like helps Notre Dame win a playoff game, it's Bryce Young. He's
Yeah.
would be on that list.
Yeah. Where are you at with the field goal kicking game? Someone
I
asked
mean,
earlier what's your like 1 through 10, what's your level of concern? What's your level of concern there?
I mean, 10. Like
Okay.
they've been bad, right? It's been bad.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I will say the blocked one, that wasn't on Jeter. Like that, because I thought, I'm like, man, he kicked it low. And then I watched the replay and I'm like, no, that was a bad job by the blocking. But then that is even more thing. It's like, how can you let that happen, right?
Mm.
But the 48 yarder, yes, it's 48 yards or whatever. But like, look, I watch a ton of college football every week. There isn't as many like the quote unquote college kickers that you before. There's way more guys who like make 50 yarders and
Yeah,
like guys who
yeah.
make 56 yards. And I mean, Jeter obviously was kicking well before he got hurt. It wasn't
Mhm.
like he was a liability at all,
Right,
but
right.
and maybe some of it is like he's lost confidence with it
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
whatever. So there's might be that, but like, I mean, it, at some point, you're going to have to get a kick where it's going to be important. Like, none of these kicks that have been missed have they've meant nothing in terms of what is actually, the outcome of the game.
Mhm.
But isn't it going to be at some point too, like that it's going to happen? And this is the other thing, like Goins as the kickoff guy, he's not as good of a kickoff guy as Jeter when Jeter's healthy.
Right.
So that's another thing. So then you worry about Notre Dame's kick coverage has been very good, so that's helped. But like, I'm just thinking of this week where all of a sudden Zachariah Branch he's obviously not having a good year.
Mhm.
I mean, he's probably going to jump in the portal or something based on
Right.
like how's kind of his year going. But I still wouldn't want to kick to him in a game like that.
Sure.
We're all of
Yeah.
a sudden there. And so, you're playing against USC and they got a guy there, or they really have multiple guys that if you kick it to him, like all it takes is one mistake and boom, the band's playing, right? So uh, place kicking, not just field goal kicking in general, I think would be kind of the only like major concern
Yeah.
for me right now.
Yeah. It is problematic. I mean, because it's his body language too. It's not so much like his body language doesn't look good. The way that he's approaching the ball, the way he's striking the ball doesn't look good. Like it's funny, like the kind of where we're at with this is like, I was thinking to myself, well, at least he got it there, like that's kind of
Yeah,
where it is. It's like it was never going in, like he missed it way right, but at least he got it there. And so, like, that's so something about his leg strength.
yeah,
The nice thing is like it's 12:30 kick next week. It'll probably be mid 60s, maybe upper 60s, 70s. So it won't be cold, right? If
yeah,
we're thinking about playing in Los Angeles, that'll be good. But it is the kind of the only thing that you're afraid of, because like Notre Dame's punt team, I mean, like our punt return team, it's like it's not even punt return. It's like you got to be very concerned. I mean, they are coming after every single punter,
yeah,
and it's a huge issue. I mean, USC's punter is actually like one of the things that on their team that's been excellent.
but that was like same with Florida State's too, right? And
Yeah,
that
yeah,
became a
that's a good
problem for
point.
them. Yeah,
Yeah, it's definitely been a problem, and it's like that is where you have teams like Notre Dame that are definitely playing for something, and teams like USC that are definitely not. Where it's the little parts of the game where it's like the margins of punt return or punt coverage or whatever it might be, where it's just like they're not as sharp, and they don't need to be as sharp, and things of that nature. What do you like? Given what you've seen from college football today, you got to think Notre Dame's one of the hottest teams in the country, Jamie.
100%.
We have these conversations about, is Notre Dame good enough to do X thing or Y thing or whatever it might be. Who looks better than them right now? I mean, we saw Penn State struggle bus in that game. Indiana did not look good against Ohio State. Um, Obviously there's there's Oregon and there's Ohio State and kind of everybody else. In that regard, Alabama goes down today, right?
Yeah, and they were looking good before that.
Yes, Penn State wins by
Ole
one.
Miss,
Ole Miss goes down. It just Notre Dame. They got to take care of business this week, and you feel like they've got a chance to do something. They really do. And there's no point. There's no team. I see a lot of people being like, oh, I can't. I hope Notre Dame gets Penn State, or I feel like Notre Dame can lose to all these teams. I don't think there's any team where it's like, oh, Notre Dame's definitely beating them. I don't know that they're in that spot, but man, especially at home, Jamie, I'm just not seeing anybody that really scares me. And
yeah.
and that's kind of an interesting place to be. Kind of where are you at with where Notre Dame is and just how well they're playing right now?
Obviously they're playing so well, but I think one of the things too, if you look at all these games where that have all been blowouts, right? Like they're just destroying teams and blowing them out. But there's been a lot of the opposite of what Army experienced, where Army literally the only time they were down in a game, let's just say too that we both called it that when the game got 2 scores up, it was over because we were 100% right there. It was like there was no chance Army was going to come back because that meant they had to, in order for them to score, they'd have to have 17 plays, 75-yard drives. Like they can't do that all game long. They were not going to be able to do that. So, yeah, but you know, the one thing with Notre Dame is that even in these games where they've had blowouts, they've had kind of fits and starts with on offense. They've given up like, opening drive scores on D mixed in there too. Obviously, the Louisville game was a long time ago, but still, that was a game like, I mean, we were there. Obviously, that was like, it was very much like a topsy-turvy game where like things were just like, there's so many momentum swings in that game. And I think like one of the things too is that like to have those kind of things that you have to deal with within the game, and you still have to get like big 4th down stops, or you still have to get this whatever, even in these games that you win big, that's all super valuable to have that rather than just like, man, because if you every game's like the Purdue game, that's not good because it's like all of a sudden then something bad happens. You're like, man, I don't know what to do, right? Like I think that is a real thing for like, just it's human nature to just be like, everything's gone so well, whatever. But I think with Notre Dame is like something can go bad and you can get down, or something you get put in these adverse situations and you just think, oh, it's 4th down, we're going to make the play. And then even if they convert, next time they go, we're making the play. And it happens, right? Like that's basically what it's been. So even in this game too, like they get stuffed on 4th down, on 4th and goal, right? That could have been momentum swing thing, whatever. 3 and out. Like it's just 3 and out right after, great field position, score. Like all of that. And that's just kind of what has happened with them. They're playing like super confident. I mean, there are gonna be people who are haters out there, whatever. Ignore these idiots on Twitter who are just like saying stuff about like, Northern Illinois and all this kind of stuff. Like, you just can't deny that Notre Dame is just playing as well as anyone.
Yeah,
and they truly are. And they haven't played the schedule, but they've just beat the crap out of these teams. So you give, like, say, Penn State, you got to give them credit for, I mean, they haven't played a tough schedule, but they gutted out wins against USC and Minnesota today on the road. And it's like, they did enough. Is that impressive? Like, should they be rewarded with a high seed for that? No, they shouldn't. But they're a playoff team. They deserve to be a playoff team, I think.
I mean, because the thing is, it's the same thing with Notre Dame in that regard. Like, these teams keep losing. Like, you can't sit there and especially when, it's Ole Miss loses to 5-5 Florida. And I don't even know what Oklahoma's record is, but like Alabama loses to whatever Oklahoma is, and it's just you see Penn State struggle with Minnesota. Like, you can't tell me like, oh, Notre Dame schedule this, Notre Dame schedule that, when these teams look at Texas A&M, 8-2 Texas A&M, 4-6 Auburn. They're in overtime. Like, I don't want to hear it about all these, NIU and, and the weak schedule you have, and Army isn't that good. I'm sorry. Like, Virginia's a terrible team. You know what? You're losing these games to these mid teams.
Yeah.
The Penn State's struggling to a mid team because they went on the road. Like, I'm sorry, but I just, you can't keep saying that. You can't keep saying that stuff. And to the point where, like, you made about the Louisville game, like, look, I think Marcus Freeman, he has shown this. He is a good coach. Like, he is he has always been a good coach, right? Like he's been able to win these big games, but he hasn't been able to consistently do what he is doing right now. When has Notre Dame continued to blow out teams like this? It's just that hasn't been the case. They have not gone on a run like this in a very, very long time. Opponent, whatever. It doesn't. It's like Notre Dame's played weak opponents before, right? This isn't the first year that they've played, a bunch of non-ranked teams. They have blown through their schedule, right? Marcus Freeman is just he has shown so much. In that Louisville game, we're walking around tailgates and we're walking around the stadium, and just the way that people were talking about him, the way that people were talking about Riley Leonard at that point, the vibe was completely different.
So different. Man, I totally forgot about that too.
Yes,
But it was not
just,
like
it's a different.
There are a lot of people asking us, like, guys, like I don't know. Like people were like, if Marcus loses this game, I don't think he's gonna make it. There was a lot of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tons of it. I mean, he's coaching for his job was what we heard over and over again. And there they are. Here they are, 10-1. Teams like Lincoln Riley teams falling apart. Brian Kelly teams falling apart. Like these much more seasoned coaches, their teams are falling apart. Lane Kiffin's team falls apart today. And not Marcus Freeman's. What does that show you about him? There was talk of it, but I noticed it. You noticed it. Other people I spoke with close to the program, they noticed like Marcus is different. And people would ask me on the website. People ask me on the message board, like, is it good or bad? I'm like, I don't know if it's good or bad. It's just different. There's something different about him, and I don't know what to make of it. And whatever that thing was that was different, it appears to have been a positive, because look at where they are now. I just kind of want to get your kind of thought on everything that's occurred from then till now.
Yeah, that's really funny too, because a lot of people have said like, "Oh, he's different," like because he came off as, I mean, and he is likable, right? But he came off as so
Yeah.
likable and just like engaging, and like someone who would just kind of like win over a room because he's like that. And like he was charming, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not like he totally lost that, but he definitely, I think, because of like, there were those kind of questions out there, he has been super serious about this job.
Yes.
And I think it's probably fair to say too that this season is so important for him and for the program that they probably, I'm not to say that like you know I'm not one of the people that thinks the recruiting's a disaster. Like some of these other people think that recruiting is a disaster. I don't think that at all. I think they still made some pretty good evals in this class. It's like pretty good. Hopefully they can salvage some guys here at the end too, or whatever. But regardless of that, like I do think there's probably like a little bit less that they put into recruiting because they put so much into being this and focusing on the field and what is going on. But ultimately, I think that's going to pay off like in recruiting because of that, because they absolutely like they need to be where they're at right now. They need to be like a 10-1 team playing this well and whatever. Yeah. And it's just one of those things. Like I know that people look at it different. There's different things that come with it in terms of like what people value in terms of NIL or what location and all of these kind of things that go into it. But I just don't know when you compare and contrast, like, Notre Dame playing at this level for this many weeks and doing that, and compared to like when Alabama's like, we got it rolling, and then they lay it just an egg out there, right? Like they don't have to make those calls and be like, well, man, we really need you. That's why we want to, like, they don't have to make those calls right now. They don't have to do that because they are just they have to say like, hey, this is they can just call and say, see what we did. This could be you. Right? Like that's kind of what they can do right now because they've played at that level. And I do think like, man, I just don't know anyone who maybe they kids aren't watching it as closely, in terms of what they actually watch, right? But I don't know. That's why I don't know if like you are someone who actually goes and values like what like getting into the right scheme or playing in a thing that can help you go to the NFL. I don't know anyone who could just watch this defense and not just be like, oh my God, this is just a fun defense to watch. It's just awesome.
I don't understand not wanting to play for this defense just up front. That doesn't make sense to me. What I would say on the recruiting thing is like, I mean, I think for their own, like Marcus Freeman, the way that he goes about coaching his team, like I don't think it's up to the standard that he's into. I don't want to get into too much of a thing because we're not talking about recruiting, but like CFB Hurts says, right? The halftime interview. Sure, we're up 28-7, but we're making mistakes. Got to clean those up. Like the field goal was unacceptable. Like the way that half ended, it's like no, it's like to him that's unacceptable. That's not the standard. That's not what we got to do, right? I personally, I don't know. I'm not in recruiting. Like I don't know what kids are looking for and whatever. You don't want to play for Marcus Freeman. Like you don't want to play for this defense. I mean, everyone who gets in the game is like a really good player, and they don't give up anything. 220 yards to Army. Like every week, it's just like they're crushing a team. And like you said, that the depth that they have, it's just I don't know. I don't understand. And not just that, but the offense too now, right? They're not doing the numbers, and I guess that hurts, right? But I think the narrative is going to start shifting soon. Like again, when all these teams are struggling, when teams are not playing very well right now, and then you have Notre Dame just crushing teams. I just don't see how people can just sit there and complain about Notre Dame's schedule when they're doing this. Penn State didn't do that today. They didn't. And other teams that had lesser opponents today didn't. I mean, Colorado, right? Everyone loves to fluff Dion and everything, and they go get the doors beat off them by Kansas. And look, fine. Kansas is playing great football. Fine. They want to be a playoff team, and they just got the doors beat off them. So, no, that hasn't happened to Notre Dame, and they've been doing the opposite. So, all right, I think we can end it there, Jamie. Thank you everyone for tuning in today. If you like what you heard, please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell. So whatever it is, we are going to go live. We're going to have to be back next week. My family is traveling tomorrow. It's Thanksgiving break. We're traveling, so there's going to be no morning after recap tomorrow. But we'll be back next week for programming. I don't know when it's going to work, Jamie. I got to talk to you about that. We're doing vacation stuff. So, but we're good. We are going to make something happen. NV Iris, there's going to be no show tomorrow. No morning after recap. So enjoy your Sunday morning without me. I'm going to miss you guys. Yeah, I know it's terrible, but we'll be back for a lot of content next week for Notre Dame's big game. So Notre Dame 49, Army 14. Enjoy the rest of your evening, everyone. We'll talk to you soon. Keep hitting and hustling.